need some energy, okay? Because we're having a real conversation tonight about leadership. We did say diversity, equity, and inclusion in the room, and we're still safe. So I'm going to try again and get you to give me some energy. Good evening.
Good evening.
That's right. Welcome, welcome, welcome. As you said, I am Glory Spicer Robertson, excited to be here with this dynamic panel of women. Give them a round of applause as we get started. So in our very first installment of TSD in the Community Forum, we are doing it in honor of Women's History Month. And there's no better topic than leadership. Now, people hear about leadership and they think it's glamorous, it's great. You get to make decisions, sometimes you make a lot of money. You get to be in charge of other people. Sounds wonderful, but we know there's another side of leadership too. You're managing personalities. Sometimes you are up 3 a.m., 2 a.m. responding to people, whether you want to or not. Sometimes you made that great coffee that is your energy for the day, and you left it on top of the car, so you're gonna have to find your energy from somewhere else. And if you are a parent, you have that guilt because sometimes you might be late and you left that child at daycare, at school, somewhere, and you call your village to come pick them up. But tonight we're going to get real, talk about leadership, and understand what are the different levels, what does it look like from these stories, from these seats. And I am not going to take the pleasure of doing introductions. We have wonderful women here who can tell their story better than I can. And so I gave them a bonus question. Hopefully they're ready for it. We'll start here on the end with Ms. Althea Greene. But the question is I asked them to introduce themselves, tell their name, their title, where their workplace is, but also tell us something that is not on your resume. And then tell us in your own words, what song describes your leadership journey?
Good evening. My real name is Reverend Al Greene. My name is Reverend Althea Greene, but most of my friends call me Reverend Al. I am a retired educator of 38 years. I was going to look down and see if my former student was on the panel. I do see a former parent down there. I was blessed to teach her 3 wonderful daughters. I retired after 38 years in education. And then I went on to have one of the most difficult jobs that I ever had, and that was being the former chair of the Memphis Shelby County School Board. And if it was something that and I'm a senior pastor of Real Life Ministries. I've been a pastor now, just celebrated 22 wonderful years. Woo, that's a long time. If it was one thing that's not on my resume that most people don't know about me, is that I love to grill and cook. Most people don't even know that unless you really know me. So I'm that person that can grill the best ribs, hand down, in Memphis, Tennessee. You'll have to try that peach moscata grilled salad. I'm just bragging a little bit. But Deidre's sitting there like, I'm a witness, you know. So I love to cook, and most people don't know that about me. If there was a song to describe my life, that song would be, I've had some good days, and I've had to some hills to climb. But when I begin to think things over, my good days outweigh my bad days, and I'll sum it up with, I won't complain. Bless you.
I also feel like that was an invitation so that you can grill for us. So thank you, I appreciate that. We're ready for it. Representative Karen Campbell.
Thank you.
Yes.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you all for being here. I spent 21 years of my life as an Army intelligence officer. Retired, came home, and started a nonprofit called the Home Hearts Foundation. And was working with young people who wanted to be in the music business. So we was teaching them the business behind the business of the music business. Very successful. A lot of great kids came out there, did a lot of great things. And then something said you need to run for office. So I ran for office, and in 2008 I was appointed to the seat that I'm in now. And in 2008 I ran to keep the seat, and it didn't hit me until maybe 2 years later. I was on the ballot with Obama. So I ran, won the seat, and I've been there ever since, and I've eventually rose up to become the House Minority Leader. I would say something people don't know about me is that I am an international and national lip sync champion. I'm good, okay? And I love doing it, so it's a hobby of mine. And we just had Capital Jam last week, and I created a group called the Leatherettes, and we performed, and we were the star of the show. And I would say the song for me is When I Look Back Over My Life, I can see really how the Lord is guiding me. And that's what has kept me going, for real. I've been in some tough situations, and I look back and say, it's nothing but God. So that would be my song.
Thank you for sharing. And you did not lip sync for us, you got to sing, so we appreciate that. Pearl Walker. Pearl the hair either. I know.
Good evening, everyone. So I'm Pearl Eagle Walker, and I am Memphis City Councilwoman for District 3. And just like Texas State Representative Jasmine Crockett, I too wear fake lashes. So my title, I said I was Memphis City Councilwoman District 3. So what you may not know about the council is that all council members are required to be chair and co-chair of a committee and liaison to a board or commission. I am chair of libraries and neighborhood improvement, and I am co-chair of the MLGW committee. And part of the reason why I received that designation is that I do have a background in environmental and energy justice. I've worked with a variety of organizations in that arena. I am currently the co-chair of the Environmental and Climate Justice Committee for the Memphis chapter NAACP, and I also do community engagement for SACE, that's the Southern Alliance for Clean Energy, Knoxville, Tennessee. And so it says here, 2 quick icebreakers. Ooh, now that song is gonna be pretty tough, but so I love to make my mother's butter rolls. I have compromised her recipe just a little bit. I don't use as much white sugar. I use white and brown sugar. It just makes me feel a little better, but because they're very rich. They're very sweet and they're very rich. But I am very domestic. People don't know that side of me. I keep a DIY project going. And I enjoy the creativity, and it's relaxing, and it's fun. So the song, I'm embarrassed to say the first thing that came to mind was this hip hop rap song. What is it? Started from the bottom, and now we're here. So I have to share that one of the hats that I have worn over the years was in cosmetology. A lot of people in this room know me as the hair diva, and I am a former board member on the cosmetology board. So actually I was the first cosmetologist with a natural hair background to serve on the board. And finally, I am the founder of the I Love Whitehaven Neighborhood and Business Association.
Good evening, everyone. I am Saralyn C.J. Davis, and I am the Chief of Police here in the city of Memphis. I have been in law enforcement for 38 years. I don't look like it, do I? Go ahead and make me feel good. What you see. But I started my career in the city of Atlanta. I am prior military as well. I did some time in the Air Force, so I have great appreciation for those who have done service. My father was in the service, and I'm one of 6 children, and been here in Memphis now almost 4 years. Don't seem like it, huh? Almost 4 years. Retired in Atlanta as assistant chief, became chief of police in the city of Durham, so I am in my 9th year as a chief of police, which is an anomaly in this country. something about me that you don't know, and most people don't know this, I am an avid swimmer, and I'm a certified lifeguard as well, and love to swim. That's my sweet space, the way I get quiet time, the time that I can actually meditate. Songs, I had 2 songs. One of them is Encourage Yourself by Donald Lawrence. You know, sometimes you have to encourage yourself. So, you know, I don't depend on people to encourage me because encouragement don't always come when you want it to. So sometimes you have to encourage yourself. And then working around a bunch of men every day. My other song is more secular. They not like us. They not like us. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Hello, my name is Brenda Hardy. I am a physician. I have been practicing in Whitehaven. In fact, I started my first office in Whitehaven in 2002. I have, and I'm still in Whitehaven, but I'm also in East Memphis as well. And I'll just go to my favorite song at this point is Got Me Working Day and Night. And so that reflects my lifestyle. But I am a Memphian, not at birth, from Mississippi. I grew up in North Memphis, and I see my North Memphis schoolmates in the audience. In Memphis, it's a big community, and during the time that I grew up, Memphis, South Memphis and North Memphis, we were all one big city town. And so that relationship, those relationships still persist to this day. What people may not know about me is that I really was born in the country. And even though I've been here most of my life, my background is farm. I had pigs and cows. My first pet was a calf. I was surrounded by chickens, had some cotton fields, because, you know, I'm first generation not in the cotton field in my family. Okay, so I was born in Mississippi. But I really honor those roots and that legacy. I had a great community, and I still do have a great community. But that is part of my background. We had outhouse. So my first remembrance of a home, we had no inside facilities. So that's how far back I go, and I delight in the knowledge and the support that my parents and grandparents gave me, and I am just so honored and respect the work that they have done to support their families and to bring us forward and to support our family and to encourage their children to do better. So I'm proud of their heritage and hope to continue that legacy.
And how do I follow that? So my name is Attorney Carlissa Shaw. I have been practicing law for going on 15 years now. Time is not even a real thing. I am a native Memphian. I'm a native North Memphian. I always say I've never not lived in North Memphis. My grandparents lived in Hollywood, my parents lived in Frazier, and I bought my house in Raleigh. And so my whole world is like a 7-minute nexus. I have an 8-year-old daughter who goes to school at Libertas, which is the old Brookmead building in Frazier. I am truly invested in that neighborhood, all of Memphis generally, but specifically, we know how we are about our neighborhoods in Memphis. North Memphis is home. Our icebreakers, one thing that someone wouldn't know about me. I've been practicing law. I went straight from college to law school, so I've been practicing since I was 25. And people always ask me, if you weren't a lawyer, what would you be? And I was reminded last week that I am fascinated with fireworks. So if I wasn't a lawyer, I would be a pyrotech.
I gotta watch it.
Right. I was watching the fireworks with my daughter last week over spring break, and I was like, I really want to be a pyrotech. Like, what do I need to do in order to do a fireworks show? Like a meaningful, big 4th of July over the river. I want to like coordinate that, Deidre. Make that happen for me. So I want to coordinate a fireworks show. Very random, but that's my one thing. Thank you so much, Lori, for these icebreakers. They were funny. I spent a lot of time trying to figure out what song defined my leadership style. And I wanted to use a Glorilla song because, again, hyper North Memphis. Everything about my world centers around North Memphis. And there's one that she has on her Glorious album, the new album with Kirk Franklin, called Rain Down on Me. And one of the lyrics that I thought was specific to my leadership style was, she says, watch over my haters, the ones that make me go the hardest. I want us all to win, I want us all to prosper. And so my leadership style is very motivational, making sure that we understand that, especially as Black women, especially in the legal community, that you're often looked at as the underdog, but that's not a negative thing. I appreciate them. They really make me go the hardest, and I inspire my staff to understand that excellence is the expectation. And again, it's not about being negative, it's turning that into a positive, because I want us all to prosper.
Well, thank you. Give them a round of applause as we get into this conversation. Excited about all of this. So we have a chef, a master griller, we have someone who can do the farm life for us, a pyrotech, a swimmer, a lifeguard, someone who's gonna always do our natural hair, whatever we decide to do. This is an amazing panel of women who are here for us. And let me not forget, in case you missed it, we also have an international lip singing challenge champion here. So this is our panel tonight. We want everyone to win and prosper. Thank you, Carlissa, for sharing that at the end. And let's get into the conversation. So leadership, as I shared before, is not always glamorous, although tonight's panel makes it look like it is. Sometimes there are setbacks, sometimes there are challenges that I call opportunities. And so this question is for Representative Karen Camper and Dr. Hardy. I'd love to know, what were those moments for you in your leadership journey where you said, this is absolutely not what I signed up for? So I will start with you, Dr. Hardy, and talk to me about what were those challenges or setbacks that happened in your leadership journey, and how did you overcome them?
Well, I would think one of the, when I'm most, is with the, I'm challenged when I'm exhausted. And so when I'm up late at night and no sleep, and especially as I've gotten older, then that's when I said, what did I do? Why am I so tired? But after a good night's sleep, which is really the goal at this time, is to get a good night's sleep, a good sleep, I am revived and be energized. The challenges come, everything is not going to be perfect, but in healthcare, you have to be serious about taking care of people. You have to be knowledgeable. You have to have an end goal, and you have to study. You have to keep abreast of what is going on, and no shortcuts. And sometimes, and a lot of times, that takes it takes a lot of sacrifice and time, and while we are often not having enough time, you can't not put the time in to take care of your people, to take care of the health needs of your patients. And so I would think that a challenge would be having time to meet all of the mandates as well as the standards of care that are required. There are lots of standards of care where you take care of people, but on the business side, there are lots of mandates and compliance issues behind the scenes that have to be met and before you even open your door. And it requires assistance and someone who has knowledge, because in healthcare, oftentimes your associates and your colleagues and your staff when it boils down to it, it's the doctor's responsibility that all of that gets carried out in the right way, appropriately, and in compliance. And that's challenging, especially when you're in private practice. It's requiring your support staff to be all in, no shortcuts, and to stay focused on the end game, which is to address and provide the care that patients need. Another challenge sometimes is there can be a disconnect between the standards of care and what physicians are committed or required to do, and oftentimes, or sometimes in the community belief is quite different. So trying to bridge that gap of distrust or non-compliance can be kind of challenging. But I would say that our medical community and healthcare community are really devoted and very proud to serve our community. We know that we are limited in number and that there are huge challenges to provide the right care to our community at the right time so that we can effect a healthy outcome. But we are always striving and working to that common goal.
Thank you. Representative Cameron.
Thank you. So I was thinking about which role that I want to speak from on this question, a role as a leader in the Army or as the Democratic leader. And I decided to talk about as a Democratic leader because in becoming a Democratic leader, number one, our party had what we call a big tent, which means there are so many different views and so many different groups within the tent that you have to keep together, to move your agenda forward. But at the same time, you've got to give them the ability to be successful in what it is they're trying to accomplish. And sometimes the two are not together or the same. We have progressive, we have liberals, we have the Black caucus, we got the Veterans caucus, we got the Women's caucus, we got the Farming caucus, we got all of these caucuses who, for them, their thing is number one, but for the group is not. So I've got to be able to hold everybody together to achieve the mission, the goal of the group versus the individual. And it gets challenging because there's a lot of strong personalities. We've all ran for office, we all who we are, we all been elected by the people. But as the leader trying to corral that and still move us together as an entire unit, it gets very challenging. And I think the thing that has helped me the most is the fact that I did serve in the military. Because in the Army, and any armed service, it doesn't matter, people come from all walks of life in this country. And every experience they have might be different. But how do you harness those differences, those strengths that they have for that mission? And so that's what I try to do with my caucus. I try to recognize the strengths that they have and how do I use those to help us move the mission. So, sometimes you just need a bulldog to go in there and choke somebody out, to get the point over. So I got Joe Towns over here. Okay, we send Joe over, all right? Then you got to have that person that, can go in and negotiate. It's a key negotiator. And challenging that is people think you're the leader, you should be the one. You must not be effective at that. I'm effective, but for this issue, it's got to be this person. So you have to find a way to use the strengths of your caucus, in this case my caucus, to achieve our overall goal. Challenges with that as well is you find out it's lonely at the top. You're the only one at the end of the night, you going home. This is you in the office, you still there, it's 11 o'clock, everybody go home. You walking down the hall, still trying to get things done for the next day. So it's very lonely at the top when you're in leadership in certain places, and it definitely is in the halls of Nashville. During the day, it's busy, it's a lot of stuff going on, but at night, it's like, wait a minute, who left that I can sit and talk to? Lastly, I'll say something that I've experienced as a Democratic leader. Everybody's not with you. Everybody is not with you. But you still got to service them. You got to make sure they got everything that they need to be successful. And a lot of them, for me, is the future of where we're going. So regardless of, I know, I get it, you're not with me, whatever, but I got to make sure you're all right, because I'm going to be gone. You're the future of what's going to be. So I still have to prepare them, send them for training, meet with them one-on-one to get them prepared for what they're about to face. And it gets a little, challenging at times, but I understand the role. So you have to understand the role that you're in when you take on these leadership positions, and find a way to walk through all the landmines that are out there, because they're there. And not just, the other side, because there's plenty from them. There's still some within your own. Okay? Word we used to use in the Army is suck it up and move on. You just got to stay mission focused. You just got to keep your head focused. You just got to keep going. Everybody's not going to see the strategy. Everybody's not going to buy into the big picture. On the other side, they will, but going along, they just don't get it. They don't understand it. You, as the leader, have to remain focused to get it done. You have to remain inclusive. You mentioned diversity, equity, and inclusion. People have to feel like they are part of what it is that you're doing. Once you do that, then they all in. They with you. They on board. What do you need? Now they come into the office saying, hey, what can I do for you? So you just got to find a way to make it through all the hard challenges, and include people in what you're doing and not lose sight of the focus of what you're trying to accomplish. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Appreciate that. So this next question is for Bishop Greene and Ms. Pearl Walker. I'm not sure for you all in the audience, but if you've been reading over the last year, a number of women leaders, especially black women leaders, have stepped down, either by force or by choice. And when I think about that, I read those articles, I wonder, what does that look like for the next generation, that mid-career group, younger women who are coming up? Who are they looking at as their mentors, as their role models? And who are the women that they're going to reach out to help them navigate? And so, as you think about your journey in our honor of Women's History Month, who are the women that have influenced your journey or shifted your life? And how are you mentoring and lifting up those that come behind you as well?
It's a long one. It's good. When I think about the person that really influenced my life, it was a teacher. I was this smart child who didn't know how to handle my energy and my brain cells. And I was a student at Snowden. And during my time in school, there are very few teachers who looked like me. I went to Snowden the year that Dr. King was killed in Memphis. So we talked about 1968. And I remember by the time I made it to 9th grade, I had my second African-American teacher. She was the one that took me in the hallway and broke me down, who made me cry, who embarrassed me. But she told me how smart I was and that I could be anything that I wanted to be in life. And when I think about standing in that hallway and trying to get myself together, because I didn't want to go back in the room and let the kids know that she had me crying. Stuff was flying out of my nose and just really messed me up. But I went back in, and I didn't open my mouth anymore in that class. And I was blessed because she reminded me that I could really be someone. And when I think about growing up, my dad had a 6th grade education, my mom had an 11th grade, but they pushed me to get an education. So I was that child that was hungry for education and decided I would get a bachelor's, a master's, and I just kept on going. But I was so blessed that that teacher who broke me down was also there when I preached my first sermon. And that same teacher who made me cry when I laid on the floor to get consecrated as a bishop, she spoke. And so it means something when people get to outlive your foolishness and they get to see you grow up and mature. And for me, it's reaching back now and finding the child that reminds me of me. Those are the students that I love to mentor. And many of you don't know that now that I have a little free time on my life, I'm back in the classroom 3 days a week. I didn't want to go to a school where the kids had everything in life. I wanted to go Carlissa to Fraser this time. And I wanted to be in a classroom with children who were needy, who need you to hug and love on them. And so I'm back because I want to continue to be a beacon of light for that young lady or that young man who think they can't make it. I want to be that light for that child who comes out of a house every day where parents are not educated, but they make it to a school in Memphis, Shelby County, where they see someone who says, beyond all of the things you're going through, guess what? I made it and you can make it. And so mentoring to me is looking back and finding that person who's struggling. And every now and then I run into those young ladies and people in different career paths who want to give up. And I remind them, I was you one day. And I wanted to give up, but people told me, you can make it. And with my faith and being able to pray and push through the hard situations in life, I will forever be grateful. But I will never be the person who think that I've got it all together. I'm going to continue to be that humble person who say, Lord, I thank you for blessing me, but I got to reach back and be a blessing to someone else.
Amen.
Thank you. So I'm going to start off with this phrase, playing it forward, keeping it forward, moving it forward, play it forward. And I'm going to go back to that at the end. So when I think about people who have shaped my life, and this being Women's Month and Women's Forum, and I want to thank all the men who are present, by the way. I think about my mother and my grandmother, and then the endless number of women who have been in my life, all my life. So I come from a family, I'm blessed to come from a family. We've been literate, we have been property owners and business owners since the late 1800s. And my mother was old enough to be my grandmother, so I have to do that for context with respect to the timeline. So I'm going back to her mother, who was a principal in a one-room school in Mississippi, Russ College graduate. And during the Depression, back to the timeline, during the Depression, she was the designated Negro in the community who got to go and help the white people get the rations during the Depression. And in that community, of course, we received them second. So the white people were able to go and get the things first. The flour, the sugar, and all those types of things. And then when it was our turn, she was the person who they allowed to come and oversee that part. Well, many times over the years, she would share that experience and how the rations had been picked over when it was our turn. And containers that had been broken and busted and things leaked out, those were oftentimes the items that were left for us. And just hearing her tell that story, but still having been able to come from a family, and her mother died when she was a little girl, and she was raised by her father. And just being able to still overcome certain circumstances and still having been able to go to school and be a Russ College alumni and that in her community, that was leadership. And she had many, many people in the community to come to her for a variety of things, for help, things that we just don't even think about, just people putting your name on the birth certificate incorrectly out of spite. And I think about her path, her journey, her legacy, so that definitely has helped to shape me. And one of her daughters, my mother, Maud Ethel Taylor Walker, she was a school teacher. Her career started in Mississippi, and then she and my father and my older sister, they moved to Memphis in 1960, and I guess life was good because I was born the next year in 1961. But she taught 1 year at Klondike, and the rest of her career was at Cummings over on Walker. And my father died when I was 5 years old. And so as a single parent, and she was teaching, she went back to school to get her master's in the early and mid-70s. And being a single head of household, and I remember, because I attended Cummings with her, and going home from school and doing my homework sometimes, and she would fix these plates. Y'all, we didn't have the microwaves and all of that, and my sister stayed on the dorm. She was in school at then Memphis State, and I don't know how my mother wrapped those plates in that foil, but the food would still be hot. And it wasn't in any fancy containers or thermos or anything like that. So she would work all day at school, go home, and she had homework to do too. And she would deal with me accordingly, pack me up with those 2 meals, and it was a plate for me and my sister, and she would drop me off at West Hall. It's something else now, but it was at the end of Midland. And she would drop me off, and I would be there with my sister, and then when she got out of class, this is evening class, she would come back and pick me up and go home, and she did that 2 nights a week. And a couple of semesters, she had Saturday class as well. So those were some of the women who shaped me, and going back to playing it forward. So I won the council race in 23, but I also ran in 2019 for Super District 8, Position 1. And so the team, we decided to do some town hall meetings around the city with different things, well, in Super District 8. And so we were needing a location for the one on education. And I reached out to Reverend Al, and I asked her, could I do a town hall at her church. Y'all, it is the cutest church in Memphis and Shelby County, if you have not been there. But yeah, and so I asked her about the fee, and she wouldn't charge me, and we weren't close, but we had someone in common through our community work, the late Michelle Land. And I asked her, she said it wouldn't be any charge, and we had discussed the food, and so I was gonna get the food. Well, she said she would pick the food up, and she got a tray of the Subway sandwiches and the whole Subway spread, and when everything was over, because it went well, when everything was over, I asked her what did I owe her, and she would let me pay her. So you have to play it forward when people do kind things for you and support you. And I'm thanking you again, Reverend Al.
You're welcome.
And who mentioned me? The women that I have already mentioned, my mother, my grandmother, and just even throughout my life being in different spaces, because I've worn a lot of different hats over the years. And when you get to be my age, that can be quite common. But I have been blessed to be in a community, be in spaces where women just were willing to support me, help me, be encouraging, and I am grateful for that. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate all the storytelling. Yes. Next question is for Chief Davis and Carlissa. So we talked about leadership can be lonely. And I think especially in today's world, right, there's lots of uncertainty. There's a bit of chaos. people aren't sure what the next day may look like. And so when you think about your leadership journey, how do you shift your perspective, especially in incidents where you have been overlooked, underestimated, or just had to navigate some type of bias as a woman leader or a woman and a leader? Tell us that story, and how did you move forward?
How much time you got?
Just a little bit, just a little bit.
I know, I'm gonna try to, I'm gonna try to express a journey in just a short amount of time. I've been in the business for a long time. My parents didn't want me to go into law enforcement. I had an aunt who was the chief judge in the city of Atlanta. She wanted me to go to law school. I took the LSAT twice and was accepted twice to go to law school. And I just kept excelling on the job in Atlanta. But in every environment I was in, from the time that I was a police recruit, it was a challenge. Because at that time, women were not readily accepted. They said, we want to hire more women. You know, that was the charge. We want to hire more women. So, you know, the city brought in more women so that they can say they hired. But once you got to the academy, they ran off most of the women. In my class, I had 35 recruits. There were 11 women in my class. I was the only female that graduated with that class. And those other women were good women. They were women that, you know, traveled and had desires of being in public safety. But at that time, we were ready for the work, but the work environment wasn't ready for us. And so that scenario played out throughout my career. And it wasn't until, and I think that's what inspired me to go to other levels so that I could make a place at the table for other women that looked like me, because I knew what my struggles were. And fortunately, I had a female mentor who was the first African-American female chief of a major city, and that was Chief Beverly Harvard. She was in Ebony magazine. Some people might remember her, but I remember clearly as she left and retired one day, she said to me as she was going to her car, at that time I was a lieutenant, she looked at me and she said, CJ, you have what it takes. And so words are powerful. You can speak someone up or speak them down, but I had male mentors too. I had male mentors, and some females were probably worse than some, and you know how we can be sometimes with each other, you know, we can nod on that. Sometimes we look at each other as competition as opposed to looking at each other as having more in common, and that there is a place for everybody at the right time. And so, you know, I was always taught to make sure that you're at the table so that when decisions are being made, that you can be a part of what the organizational decisions are. And sometimes we shy away from difficult places as women. We need to boldly go in those places, be confident, because most of the time we know more in the room than the other folk do. But one quote I always tell my staff and other people, if you're not at the table, you must be on the menu. Y'all think about that. But being at the table for me has always been important, and moving forward, even as we look at this industry, we're still losing women at the top. So that's why it's been important for me not to promote just because it's a female, but promote and make sure that we are representative of the community that we serve, and people who deserve to be in those positions are in those positions, whether they're black, white, women, men, you name it. A fair, even playing field. I have one of my female colonels here, Colonel Caroline Beasley. Y'all know her. She is a colonel now, a leader in the Memphis Police Department, and she got promoted because of the work that she does every day. And I don't apologize for that, because one day I won't be here, and one day they may have someone who's not looking at having an even playing field. So while we are in places where we can make decisions, as we talk about, you know, fairness and making sure that you know, our work environment is one that's equitable, do your part while you're there. Thank you.
testing. Yes, this one works. So the question was how I navigate bias. It's so interesting. I've lived in Memphis my whole life, and again, my standard for myself from a very young age, Bishop Greene was my 5th grade teacher. It's always been excellence. I've always been really hard on myself. I was the kid that loved school. I want to be here. I want to make good grades. My whole trajectory has been in Memphis, and so when I get challenges based upon gender and or color, it always floors me. I'm always just kind of caught by surprise. It's like, I'm good at what I do. Like, and everybody knows I'm good at what I do. So why are we here? Why are we having this conversation? But I'm actually experiencing it on a very large scale as I've launched my own firm. And so what you'll see, what we haven't seen in Memphis is a vastly successful minority female-led law firm. That just hasn't occurred in our city yet. And it's so weird to me because why not Memphis? We live in a city where the majority of our spending dollars, the majority of our political power, the majority of everything is run by Black women. And so why are there still these vestiges that we haven't come across? And so there's been a lot of, I would say, interest in my firm from minority and from majority men, because I'm taking a piece of the profit that would typically go to them. But again, I'm good at what I do. And so when I'm met with bias, it's just always like, check my file, baby, because, we can have conversations, but if this is a jury trial in Memphis, this jury is gonna look like me. And these people need to hear the story that's told by me and my firm because I speak their same language. And so there's always going to be bias. Unfortunately, that's something that we just have to deal with. But my always intention about meeting it is meeting it with excellence. You can't outwork me. You can't out-hustle me. You can't outthink me. You're not going to be better than me at this thing that I'm doing. And so I welcome your bias. I welcome your discrimination. I welcome you thinking that I'm not the best at what I do so that I can consistently show you that I'm actually the best at doing this.
Thank you. So I hope you all have questions, because before we open up the floor, we have to thank those who have allowed us to be here. So thank you to our Southbrook Town Center, but also thank you to Felicia Bean Barnes Catering. If you have not seen the food, I believe it is behind me. Before you leave, be sure to grab food. But I wanted to leave space for you all to ask this dynamic panel question. So if there are any questions in the audience, please stand and project your voice and ask a question. I see that Ms. Skip.
I'm Sandra Jones Boyd, and I too have been in law enforcement and education, long retired. But my question to each of you, what is it that you're doing to uplift young females to become leaders? Because a lot of them don't have the confidence that I have, or you have, or some others in this room. So what are you doing to uplift them?
Thank you for looking at me, so I guess I'll go first. And so I just mentioned that I launched a firm 2 years ago, and for me, a large part of my history has been mentoring, right? Because when you're younger, you want to have mentoring programs. I was over the youth ministry at Mississippi Boulevard for a long period of time. But on this side of entrepreneurship, what that looks like is giving people jobs and understanding what it looks like to build a business so that people have somewhere to come to work every day, to do meaningful work that they enjoy doing, and that grooming them while they're there. And so this new phase of my, mentorship has looked like building a business so that I can hire and train and give young women opportunity.
Well, first off, my priority for women, or all women, is to provide very good, comprehensive, sound medical care, because I do believe that your health is your wealth. And then I go back to the days when I knew that I wanted to go into healthcare, specifically OBGYN, and so I wrote letters to almost every OBGYN office in Memphis when I was undergrad. It says, okay, can I come work with you? Can I come work with you? And of course, I got a few responses, and most of the time I didn't get any response. And that was way back in the early 80s, 1980s, matter of fact. So I remember that experience, and I also remember that there were two ladies that took me under their wing during a summer experience, and I was at the Big Baptist, the world's biggest BM, we called it. And I wanted to be somewhere in healthcare. There were two venipuncture Florence and Florine and Edna. And they said, come on. And at this day, we didn't have to have certification. Just took me under the arms, and before the summer was over, I could stick anything because they took the time with me. So fast forward, now that I have a practice, I am a part of Bluff City Medical Society, which is the local branch of the National Medical Society. We have as a national priority to keep the pipeline open. So we have specific programs for those who are interested in medicine and research. We foster those students, we encourage research, we support them. Here on the local level, we do the same thing. If you are in medical school, you are invited to participate in our activities. You come to our meetings. We provide scholarships for financial assistance. And we keep them in a program, both healthcare students in other healthcare fields as well as in medicine. We keep them close by so they can see and they can participate in our community activities. So we have health fairs at churches. We're asking the students come in and assist so you can practice and see yourself doing this in some form or fashion in the future. The other thing that I specifically do, if there is a medical student, I mentor students from the Harry. They have a group of students here, as well as OBGYN residents. So we're on teaching staff for University of Tennessee, as well as for the Harry. We allow them to assist us with our patient care, and also with our surgeries, with our deliveries, because we all learn by doing. For those students who have been in undergrad, and this is particularly the young females, because in our OBGYN practice is on women, and a lot of patients feel comfortable with other women. If they are interested in medical field, they have the opportunity to come to the office. They can assist with filing. Sometimes they assist with work. Sometimes I hire them to help with the office activities and to be assistants. They can learn how to do blood pressures. They can learn how to talk with patients. And they'll get exposure to what it is and see what it is that they think they want to do and aspire to do. They'll see it in real time. So those are efforts to keep the pipeline open. I will say that it's becoming more and more challenging overall to do that because of the climate. And I would say that the biggest challenge now to medicine is the bias, and we all know it's documented. There's research papers. It's racism in medicine plays a big role in maintaining that pipeline open. It's closure of programs that specifically teach us and train us how to take care of patients. So those are the challenges, but those are the goals personally and on a national level that we have to make sure that we have able and capable providers taking care of our community.
I was hoping that you came on down to at least kindergarten level, and I say that because a lot of our children, African American children, don't understand which career that they're geared toward until they get way up here. In the other cultures and the other races, they start grooming their children from toddlers. Black men in white coats, I don't see anything that says black women in coats, although their program is open to females as well. But I appreciate you.
Okay, there are. And we know that now we have a lot more females who are graduating from medical school, and especially in my specialty. We have, the little kids? You mean exposed?
We're talking.
Okay.
Thank you both. Ms. Gail, did you have a question? Ms. Carson?
They answered it.
Oh, they answered your question. Yes.
I had a statement with mentoring. Mentoring is good, but when it's one individual, you only get a few. And it's kind of like she was saying, starting the children young and starting with many children. Maybe we need to bring back some of these organizations. I was a Boy Scout leader, where we had Explorer Post, where we did the police, you know, James Kirkwood, Johnny Curran, and a lot of those guys came through there. Medical, the Explorer Post, where we don't take one, we go into the schools, and Meharry, you know, John Washington up there in Meharry. My uncle was William Arthur Falls, Meharry up there with. Another thing we need to do is with nursing, CPR, bring these CPR classes back. Kids will be noticing that they're interested in medicine and things like that. Another thing too, government, student council. Okay, I was student council, and a lot of the kids like Chris Thomas and those guys that you see now, who's that, Robertson, started out with student council. We give a lot of athletic banquets, but I don't think we give enough attention to those children that are interested in the law. Matter of fact, I was like you, I was law myself. Okay, another thing too, we used to have sororities, and they would help in Hamilton with these kids with the ACTs. We need to get these young women back, come on young women, and getting up and doing what the old folks do, okay? Tutor these kids, like she said, introducing these children. Also, candy strikers. There were a lot of old organizations that we let die, okay? And so that's how we can all become involved and help them in the work. You also might remember me, I'm the drummer for Nutcracker Remix. I teach kids drums. So those that want to be musicians, those that want to be lawyers, those that want to be doctors, we're going to do a project later on. I'm going to get with you on that. We need to get off the cell phones and get out and start raising these children.
Thank you to our audience panelists. We appreciate that. Thank you. Excellent. Any other questions from the audience as we wrap?
I actually was just going to respond to some of the work that we're doing in the Memphis Police Department. A couple of years ago, we started Girl Scout troops in all of our precincts. So it's not just for the young girls in our community, it's also so that our young police officer, female police officers can be volunteers in the community, and so that they can help guide some of our young females. I was a Girl Scout, I'm passionate about Girl Scouts, and those activities have been really important. We also have a Dare Great program, and somebody mentioned Kirkwood. I hired Kirkwood back. He's back in the Memphis Police Department now because of the work that he was doing in the community before as a clergy person, and he's connecting at a different level with young people, conflict resolution. You know, all of the root causes of things that we see, not just with our young men, but also with our girls now. The fights that you see break out and things like that, that's because our young people need to understand how to resolve conflict without being physical. And some of it is not about gang activity. Some of it is just showing out or whatever the case might be. So we have those programs that in the police department, I've always been an advocate for making a way for women to really understand their role and how important a diverse police department is, because we do things differently. Our men do things one way, we kind of do things differently. And if you look at studies, women are less likely to be in physical altercations because we know how to talk our way through things. Guys like to flex. You in the room, you know y'all like to flex. and sometimes having a combination of both of them, they all find the right balance. So you're absolutely right. It's important that we bring up our young women and ensure that they have the mentorship at the earliest ages of their careers too.
Thank you, Chief Davis. Any other questions before we, yes ma'am?
I have a question, and I apologize, I was late. I was trying to do some yoga, believe it or not. He was on the ground, he wasn't in the chair, so it took me a while to get up here.
Well, you made it. We're glad to have you.
So I missed just the introduction, but I wanted to know if we had anybody on the panel that was an entrepreneur. And I say that because when my child was young, he came home, this Greene, Dr. Greene, said, Mama, whatever the child's name was, said, we must be rich. And I said, why do you say that? He said, he saw Daddy's van. This was what my husband did on the side. Said, it says, Smith Painting Service. I said, oh no, we're not those kind of painters. This is your daddy's other job. Okay. So I began to talk to other parents, and it seems like we, as blacks, train our kids to get an education and get a job, okay, and a good job. We don't do a lot of promotion about entrepreneurship. And so that's why I was asking, if we had an entrepreneur other than the doctor, and I did not know what you did, on the panel, and if not, can we take more of an emphasis toward that at our next meeting?
Thank you for your question, and yes, we have a number of entrepreneurs on the panel.
Yes, thank you. And in addition to being on the panel, we have multiple entrepreneurs in the audience as well.
Yes.
So with the previous question and this question, it makes me think about one of my campaign bullets, closing the information gap. There are a lot of things that are going on in the city of Memphis that we don't know about. And just because you don't know about it, it doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. And so let's be mindful of that, and when we're thinking of things, let's first seek the information, seek out whether that entity, that organization, that initiative is existing or not. With the city of Memphis, we have a great Department of Youth Services under the leadership of Brian Harris, and I was connected with them through my own son even before I got on the council. They have the ambassadors program. He was in that program. We did monthly meetings with the parents over at Broad Baptist, and one of the meetings there was a table out in the lobby, and there was a line, and I was like, now what's that line for? Because I had no signage or anything, and I went over there and stood in the line, and it was for students who wanted to go to Ghana. And so that's, he went to Ghana, long story short, and so that was a wonderful opportunity for him. They were gone for 19 days. You mentioned about the Girl Scouts. I would love to see more Girl Scout troops. I don't know of one in Whitehaven. That doesn't mean that it doesn't exist, but if somebody's interested in doing that, I would love to partner and support the Candy Stripers. You want to bring that back? Let's do it. I'll support you. And ma'am, you mentioned about the yoga, so we do have a yoga, this is more FYI, we have a yoga studio right here in Whitehaven, right here in this building, on the other side, around the corner, Brown Skin Yoga, and I am a certified yoga instructor. I'm a little rusty, but I am a certified yoga instructor. But as far as entrepreneurship, I think going back a few decades, there were jobs, there were things that we just didn't have access to. And so getting certain jobs and being able to pursue certain career paths at a certain point in our history in this country, that really was a big deal. And maybe with the opportunities to go into certain fields of employment, maybe we didn't look at entrepreneurship the way we always did. For back then, that was more or less a survival mode. You know, we had to have our own businesses in many instances because we didn't have the skills or the education, and then the racism where we just couldn't pursue certain things. And in 2025, they both are important. It is important that we still pursue these careers because we're still achieving first, believe it or not, in 2025. And as far as the entrepreneurship is concerned, get the information, seek out people who are doing what that young person wants to do and let them meet them. When something in particular, if someone says they're interested in something, I say, well, do you know anyone who does that already? And I try to pair people with individuals who are already in that field so they can get firsthand knowledge. But once again, we got to close the information gap, share the information, and I think that's what that should be about in 2025.
Thank you for the question, because I've always been interested in teaching young people about being business owners. And part of my the Humble Hearts Foundation, that's exactly what we did. We was teaching them how to set up your own business, because everyone is not going to be the artist. But you can create a business that support the artist. And so I've always done that. Secondly, there used to be a program I used to be a part of and do as a part of MED Week, Minority Enterprise Development Week. We had what was called a Youth Entrepreneur Summit every year. And we brought young people in, starting at middle school, because they have some great ideas. And we taught them how to do a business plan. How do you prepare for the financials? How do you get credit worthy in order to go into that bank and say, I need a loan because this plan is so great? And unfortunately, you know, when I went to General Assembly, I just had to let some things go. And that was one of them. I just couldn't keep current on it and do it. And the thing about the music business, having a business in the music business, you got to be on it. You got to be on top of it, because the parents are entrusting their child to you, and they know how treacherous that business can be. So I couldn't, you know, give my business over to someone else to manage with my reputation. So I had to walk away from it. But I've always promoted young people to think about being a business. Create your own. And we have great ideas that we can do ourselves. And I'm going to say this about right now in this country, what we're dealing with. This is the time. If we do not take advantage of every single opportunity right now, because we have everything we need. We have the financials, we have the skills, we have the subject matter expertise, we have the businesses, we have everything we need. We hear people say all the time, oh, black people spend $1 billion on, well, if you got $1 billion, what are you going to do with it? How are we going to come together with it? We need to be doing that now. When Ford said we coming to Tennessee, one of the first thing I did is I pulled the Mid-South Business Council Continuum together with the BDA, Black Business Association, and the minority suppliers together and said, this is the time. We need to meet, we need to start preparing, because we can create the businesses that's going to supply Ford. And we have to be thinking about this. Secondly, I remember years ago, the 100 Black Men used to have a program called Kidpreneur. And they was training young black men to be thinking, young men, to be thinking about being business owners. So every time I see one, I say, when are you bringing back Kidpreneur? When is it coming back? 2 weeks ago, the president or chairman, I don't know the appropriate title at this moment, was in Nashville. He said, I heard you call. They're bringing back Kidpreneur. And I'm trying to get him funding in the budget to help with, get funding for this. Another bill I had, I didn't get it passed, but I tried really hard to get it passed, was I wanted to create a fund, a youth entrepreneur fund, that a child of 13 to 18 that had a concept or idea could get a grant to start their business. And it may have been just $5,000, but $5,000 to start a little business for a 13-year-old, that's something. So I'm going to try to do that again. I wasn't able to get it done, but that's all right. You don't get it the first time. Just keep trying. You never stop. And one more thing on mentoring. What I try to do, I have a suite of interns that come every year, right? I stay in touch with them. We meet on Zoom, wherever they are, to continue to pour into them for whatever it is that they're going to achieve. And I just got a text the other day from one of the young ladies that's going to be graduating from Southern Law School. And so I try to stay in touch that way. And then I try to do my days on the Hill, where I bring young people to Nashville to expose them to something different. They hear about it in the news, but seeing it live makes a difference. And then I also try to, get them to think about not just being the elected official, but there are a lot of careers that goes with that. And we hardly ever think about blacks in the lobbying field. So I try to pair them with a lobbyist to expose them to government external affairs and things like that, where you can make a huge impact on people's lives. So those are just some of the things that I've tried to do to pour into the next generation. And lastly, I'm sorry, I know I'm taking a lot of time, forgive me. But when I see a young lady that is in a career, at a job, just took on something new, and you recognize, oh, they're gonna need some support. I cannot let her not be successful. So I try to pair them with somebody to help them grow. Because we would not let you be unsuccessful. You're gonna be successful. I'll put a team around you to make sure. And I've seen these women grow and blossom and become great leaders in the city of Memphis right now, today. And then I try to meet with them, as much as you can, to give them a free place to just be vulnerable, to say it's hard, to tell their story, where they can just cry, and then when it's over, marching forward, we got a team, we're going for. So that's kind of some of the stuff I do in mentoring, and thank you for the question around entrepreneurship.
Thank you, Representative Camper. Thank you to this panelist. Before we close, I need a brief one word or your favorite quote to leave everyone in this room with who is walking into leadership, whether that be in their career, whether that be in the community, whether that be in their culture or their personal life. We can leave from every seat. What is the one piece of advice that you want to leave with everyone in the room? Start with you. That's great.
I think my one word of advice would be to everybody in the room. There's a scripture in the Bible that says pray without cease. So my one word would have to be pray. Because I know that we can do anything, but when we get on our knees and we pray as a family, as a body, as a collective group of people, all things are possible. And so I say to you, my brothers, as we have some in the room, and sisters, continue to be prayerful about things that are going on in this community, our district, in Nashville, in the White House. I don't know how we're going to make it in 2025 unless we pray and stay on our knees. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I do 2 words?
Make it a compound.
It's a compound word. You know the word, what I'll leave with you all? Trust yourself. Trust yourself. Because I really believe this. This is one of my favorite Bible verses. Greater is He that is within me. That's the greater spirit talking to you. And when you listen, you cannot go wrong. You cannot. God won't allow. Trust yourself.
That's hard. So for me, I'm just going to go back to something that I said earlier, and it's not one word, it's 3 words, and that's close the information gap. As I move around the community as a council person, even before I was a council person, that has been one of my greatest accomplishments, is sharing information with people who can use it, apply to their lives, apply to their children, their families, their church. Because a lot of what is lacking is simply because we don't have the information. And I just want to encourage you all, when you leave tonight, become ambassadors of information. And I know that it would make a difference in this community for all of us. Thank you.
And I guess we all can't say just one word. It really is hard. But something that has been sort of a reoccurring theme in just different meetings that I've been in for our city is to speak life. That we need to be not so hard on ourselves, on our city, be more optimistic and speak life. Thank you.
I would say knowledge is power. And we've heard many of the panelists speak in this in various forms, but knowledge is power. And I remember that growing up, my dad, who had an 8th grade education, says once you know something, whether or not you get credit for it or not, once you know it, nobody can take it away from you. And I think that would be important. Knowledge is power.
So my 2 words, because everybody got 2 and 3. My 2 are heart posture. And so in the world that there's so much conflict, there's so much controversy, either in real life or social media life, everybody arguing on Facebook, I always ask myself, is my heart posture right? Am I either acting or not acting in a way that honors God, honors my family, honors my legacy, and honors my community?
Yes, please give a round of applause. We just want to say thank you to our panelists. Thank you to all of you all in the audience, but absolutely thank you to the Tri-State Defender for creating this space so that we could have these nuggets, this wisdom from everyone here that joined us. I hope that you are inspired. I hope you are empowered. But also, we appreciate all that you shared and closed us out with, because we learned that leadership is not always about having all the answers or living some glamorous role, but it's about having the courage to speak up, to show up, but most importantly, lift up. I think many people asked that question in the audience, and so I hope, as Carlissa shared when she came in, that we help people win and inspire them to prosper. So, thank you. It's been my honor to be a moderator and listen and share in these nuggets, and I will welcome up Calvin Anderson and Miss Andrea Childress-Ely. So thank you all for joining us this evening.
So thank you to this outstanding moderator, Laurie Spicer Robertson, and to Attorney Shaw, Dr. Hardy, Chief Davis, Councilwoman Walker, Leader Camper, and Bishop Greene. Thank you so much for being part of the panel. Let me thank all of you in the audience for taking the time to be here with us as Tri-State Defender kicks off this 2025 community forums. We will do additional forums in May. We will be doing health and wellness at the Memphis Health Center. Then in June, we will be doing public safety. In July, education on back to school. And in October, we will be doing that great subject, Council Lady Walker, of politics and government. And then in November, we will do a forum on entrepreneurship, which will coincide with our annual Best in Black program. So we look forward to engaging the community better. Noted journalist Ida B. Wells said, "The people must know before they can act, and there is no educator to compare to the press." We see ourselves as very important to have an independent press, now more than ever, speaking the voice of the Black community to a wider audience. And with that, I'm glad to see our editor, Stephanie Jones, here with us. Tri-State Defender has this great legacy of great editors, and we look for Stephanie to also sit into that framework.